Hmm.
Morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
Oh yeah,
I'm okay.
good.
You ready for your private lesson?
Yeah, I jotted down a couple of things for today. You know, I'm still not having nearly enough practice time, but what I was thinking was with Bill not here and me struggling to find practice time, maybe instead of us going forward with anything new, we can kind of just continue to work on. I'd really like to try and do a little bit more with the mind intent that we were talking about last week.
Uh-huh.
Uh, maybe have you, together we can. You had talked about being able to settle yourself and clear your mind so that you can get the mind intent to work at its best and so forth. Maybe we can do a little bit of that and then go into an 8 gates from that, um, something along those lines. But just when I do have my own practice time, it's very limited usually, and I'm having trouble just quieting myself and taking the time to get to a really good spot before I even start.
Yeah.
Um, I know there's going to be some interruption coming in 10 minutes. So generally with Jesse or with a phone call or whatever, it's just things are so hectic right now. So this is a good time for me to take advantage of that. Um, I was also thinking that, after we kind of work on that stuff, maybe work on my form a little bit with you kind of giving me some more input as far as lengthening and twisting and everything else that I'm trying to do. And, I haven't really tried, as you suggested, putting the mind intent into the form yet, focusing on that yet. So I haven't really done that yet, but I'm still obviously working on the other things we've talked about in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
So, what are my thoughts for today?
Good thoughts.
Yeah.
Good thoughts. That uh, much along the line that I was thinking about.
Okay. That's good.
So good. Um, you know the the issue of allowing yourself to let go and arrive at as close as possible at Wu Chi um, is it's like the it's like the first lesson. You know, it's the in reality, it's one of the first things we need to learn, not just for Tai Chi, but for everything that we do.
Right.
Because if we can do that, we can be much more effective at each thing that we deal with. And so I certainly agree with you that that's really important, and it's one of those things that there's no magic pill.
Right.
It's something you have to learn, and I'm deliberately using the word allow yourself to do because you're perfectly capable of it.
Mm.
That's not the question.
Right.
Um, it's we we let all the things that are out there just pile up and flow through our mind in a huge flow. And even when you're meditating, the number of thoughts that are actually flowing through your mind, whether you're aware of them or not, is is numerous and can be in the hundreds
Mm.
um, in extremely short times.
I know it's a matter of letting them, you can't prevent them from occurring in your head, but you can prevent them from staying in your head. And you let
Yeah.
them go as soon as possible. And I'm generally pretty good at that.
Uh
But
huh.
it's just when I'm standing and, literally letting nothing else in the world, trying to let nothing else in the world affect me other than starting my Tai Chi with clear Wuji and moving into intent and all. It, it I have trouble doing that for more than a couple of minutes before I start to lose you know, that
Yeah.
moment.
And you put your finger on it, losing that moment. It's not staying in the moment.
Right.
It's going off into other moments.
Yeah. And, as I said, I'm pretty good in the rest of my life about doing that, staying in the present moment, dealing with the present moment, not worrying about the future, blah, blah, blah. I'm generally pretty good about that. And I'm okay with it in Tai Chi, but I definitely can be a lot better because I've been better in the past in my
Yeah.
Tai Chi practice with it. So I know I can be.
Um, I will say that at this stage, usually one of the things that's important for a more advanced Tai Chi player, and certainly you might consider yourself advanced, but you're certainly an advanced intermediate. Um,
Right.
it would be it would normally, usually, be important for meditation to be a part of your practice.
Right.
Your issue is that you have so much going on in your life that you're not finding time to do minimal practice of almost anything. And so I doubt that meditation is something that you're focusing on at the moment.
No, it's not. When I do have some time, I do try and do, you know, the things we're working on rather than meditating.
Yeah. Um, because meditation really is where you learn to do what you're talking about.
Right.
Um, because what you're trying to do is to arrive ultimately uh, at least being able to flow with meditative movement.
Mm.
Um, it is possible to actually meditate while doing Tai Chi, but um, it is it is difficult to arrive at that level because you have to get to a point where everything that you're doing is no longer requiring you to think about it in any way.
Right.
Um, so, blah blah blah. You know most of that.
Yeah, and and it is even when I am just thinking about the flow that I'm doing, my Tai Chi form, if I'm doing that, that is meditative to me because if I'm very much in that moment and focusing on my lengthening and my twisting and even my breathing or whatever I'm focusing on in that flow, I am letting go of most everything else. So that's a step towards meditation for me.
Sure, it's learning to stay in the present moment, and that's a big that's a big important step. Absolutely, absolutely. So I think part of what I was saying here is that yeah, we can think about um, endeavoring to quiet the mind and allow the um, mind to extend through the body, and therefore we're talking about the mind intent extending through the body. Um,
Right.
there's no there, I, I can talk words about it, but I don't know that I can communicate um, how to do that.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm asking is, when you do it for yourself, how you do it for yourself, but kind of communicating that to me while you're doing it, so I can go back and
Hmm.
kind of follow this video again and do it as following your process would be helpful for me to whatever extent you think you can do that.
Okay, no, I can certainly do it, although talking about it
Will
prevents
prevent you
actually
from doing
doing it.
it. Right, exactly. No, I totally understand that.
Okay.
I know, but it,
Uh,
but it will give me something to follow, and I can do it while I'm following your words.
hmm. Okay. Um, so let's stand up and do that.
I mean, obviously, you're far better at doing it than I am. So if I listen to your process of how you are doing it as you narrate it to me, I can do that many times in the future by just following your run. So it becomes part of what I do.
I think what I was saying was that um, there are no words in my process. My process is letting go of words. So it's, but I'll see if I can say something about that.
It'll be a challenge for you then, I guess.
Yes.
Whatever you can do, I'm sure it will be better than what I'm doing now. But however you can
Okay.
convey that to me will be better than what I'm doing now. So
I'm not trying to avoid.
I know, I understand.
Um, it's just one of those things that, as with a lot of what we come to as we
Yeah,
progress further, it far less words.
right.
Um,
Becomes more intuitive for you,
yeah.
and I understand.
So, excuse me. Ideally, the process begins before you even step out. And for me, I suppose one of the things I have used is to focus on my breath. But I'm also trying to arrive at a point where I simply let myself exist in this moment, in this place, and not have any expectation of moving, of doing anything, of simply trying to be. And then often within that, there comes a moment when something moves you. And yes, it's probably related to mind intent, and it's related to energy. But it's not, I'm going to move now, or I need to move now. Excuse me. It's simply that now is the time to move. And you step out, endeavoring to do an empty step, and immediately everything is focusing on roundness of movement, softness, openness, keeping the breath as long and soft as possible. Feeling it cause the entire body to expand and contract. And of course, this translates eventually to opening and closing. And as you feel that energy moving in your body, you first want to cleanse the body, cleanse the energy of whatever energy the body cannot any longer use. So letting the body twist outward, the weight shifts subtly to the heel, and let the energy drop through your body. Keeping the legs and the ankles and feet relaxed so the energy can drop down through them into your etheric body below your feet. Returning to the earth, where that energy can be purified and recycled. And just feeling that dropping of the energy. And then coming back to center. And now focusing on extending your mind through your body. So this means that you are able to feel inside your body every part. Inside your head and neck and shoulders, down through the inside of your arms all the way to the fingertips, down through your chest, back and sides. Aware of the area of the kidneys, the lower back, the quad, and the perineum. Making sure that's open. Feeling inside the legs. Feeling the energy passing through the back of the knees. Calves, ankles, feet. Feeling the energy flowing in both directions. And even just as you stand, you can feel the yin energy flowing up, the yin surfaces of the legs, and up the back, over the top of your head, down the front, and finally down the outside of the legs. That macrocosmic circuit, which is not only on the surface, but flowing inside your body as well. Just using your mind to feel that chi flowing through that circuit, so that you feel the energy through your whole body. Aware of your organs expanding and contracting with the breath. And then flowing into the 8 gates. Endeavoring to allow the breath to stay continuous and slow, and to feel that energy moving in and out of the body. Up and down. single part of your body moving in coordination. Remember the 6 external correspondences: ankles and wrists, elbows and knees, quad, and shoulders and scapula. Stay aware of the energy flowing in and your mind intent focusing on flowing it out. When you're doing a flow, not worrying about those separate components, simply trying to be as present with the fullness of the flow as you can.
That's right. That sounds like Fred. Yeah. Yes, yes. Okay. Watch. Stop.
is important to let yourself stand and just be again. Where are you? What are you feeling? How are you different than when you started? And just let yourself return as close to Wu-Ji as possible. And then stepping in, and when you're ready, going on about your day or the next part of your practice.
So to answer, well, it's on my mind to answer your question. How am I different when I started?
I'm sorry, I didn't underhear you.
So to answer your rhetorical question that you just asked, which is how am I different than when I started?
Yeah.
Very soon into listening to you talking to where I wanted to be, I became exceptionally rooted, really well rooted. And I kept that throughout the whole time we were doing that.
Ah.
Uh, more rooted than I remember being in a very long time.
Huh.
And as we went on, but when we finished what we were doing, I was also noticing how full of energy my arms and hands in particular were.
Mm-hmm.
My hands are still pulsing right now.
Good.
Also, earlier on, when you were talking about the energy flowing through the legs and all, I actually started feeling energy flowing up the inside and down the outside. And I really never feel that.
Good.
I had real inklings of that because my mind intent was there. I was more present than I am 99.9% of the time. So to me, these are all very good breakthroughs, and this is exactly why I was hoping that we could do something like that, so that I can go back to this segment time and again and go through this again because it did benefit me quite a bit.
Good. Well, I'm glad if it really helps. Because I understand what you're saying, and God knows I was there. It's been many years, but ago, but I was in that place too, and I do understand.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not easy. It's not
No,
easy.
it's not, especially when I'm just physically and mentally tired all the time, and that makes it even harder to release
Yeah.
and to hold present. So I really, you did a really good job just now. At least for me, it's extremely helpful, and I will. When we're done with this, I'm going to go back and find the timestamp so that I can go back to this over and over again. So
Okay.
thank you. I appreciate that. That was definitely
I'm glad that was good for you. That's
good.
what we want, you know. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. No, and I know it was a challenge for you to actually do it in a way that would benefit me, but I think you did a great job, so I appreciate that. Thank
Oh, good, good. Well, actually, it was a really good flow for me too.
you. Okay.
So it works both ways.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Um, it is true. I mean, teaching is not the same as practicing.
Right.
It isn't, but it you can also derive some benefit while teaching,
Right.
depending on. It depends. It varies. Some days you get a lot of benefit, and other days doing what you're doing you don't get much. But
Right.
um, it it's it isn't the same as practicing. That's one of the
Right.
things I'm looking forward to doing less teaching
Right.
eventually.
Well, I don't know if remember, but way back when, I mean, I'm sure you remember I was assisting you in a number of classes,
Yeah,
with the defenders classes and weapons classes and so on.
yeah.
But I also, if you remember, I totally on my own. I taught a class. It was at a school. You had a class at a school, and I did that all by myself. And I also one summer down by the river in I
Deep
think it was,
River.
yeah, Deep River. I taught that one summer totally on myself on my own. So
Uh-huh.
I I'm relating to what you're saying because I'm thinking back to that now and how I actually did derive benefits from the teaching end in my own practice.
Yeah,
But you also have to look at it from a totally different way and empathize with, if you're doing a one-on-one, you have to empathize with where that person is and get back into that mindset. So I know what you're saying as far as teaching being totally different from the
yeah,
self-practice. And
yep.
but they're both good. They're both beneficial.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I used to like those times, David. I enjoyed that when I was much younger and had time and energy and focus to help you with the teaching. And we had some really big classes. In one of them was in a gym somewhere. I forget where. But we had some really big classes. So
Yeah,
I enjoyed the assisting and the teaching.
I think that was in Colchester.
Yeah, it was somewhere in Colchester. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
What? No, it wasn't a gym. I'm sorry. It was the VFW. It was
yep. It was that hall that I rented.
one of those halls. Yep.
Uh, uh, yeah, I had a couple of really big. I remember one beginning class that had 22 people in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I assisted in that one. It was very big.
Yeah. The first night of it, I was overwhelmed.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, so in the form,
Yep.
um, which element do you want to work on? And we'll just start with one.
Um, I think probably lengthening would be the best.
Okay.
Um,
So,
I'm still not really separating that probably, and I know it shouldn't be separated ultimately, but in trying to focus on it, I'm not separating that well from twisting and bending and all. I'm not being able to focus on lengthening it
yeah.
when I try to.
It's I completely understand that it's much easier to focus on twisting. It's
Yeah,
much more obvious. Um,
right,
we can be aware of the turning of a limb or a part of
right,
the body. Um, we have a hard time lengthening. That's a really foreign concept to us. And so one of the ways to work on that, and it causes constant pausing as you go through, but is stopping for a moment or two at every lengthening out and lengthening in. And letting yourself feel that um, at that moment. And actually, because we don't have too much trouble feeling the lengthening out. We all sort of get that anyway, without
right,
too much difficulty.
right,
But we don't allow ourselves to have the rubber band effect of springing back in. And of it is those movements, of course, are related to bending and extending, but they are different because we're working with different physical elements in doing those. But they are related in that when you bend, you are usually lengthening in, and when you extend, you're usually lengthening out. Um, but they are not the same.
right. And that's where I'm having some difficulty is in, them being meshed together a lot in my actions and in my mind even.
Yeah, yeah. So um, we can work through a part of the form. I, in doing this, I think it is good not to try to do the whole form at once.
What if we maybe did half this week and half next week?
I don't. I think even half is probably too much.
Right?
Um, but we'll see. We'll
Right.
see. We'll, let's go into it and kind of see where we get to. And it's
Right.
a slow practice. You're not going to flow. This is not flowing.
Right.
Um, this is, and that uh, reminds me to say again, as I have said in the past, remember that whether you're working on a qigong or whether you're working on tai chi, um, there are two basic ways of practicing. One is to work on some element that you're trying to develop, or work on a posture that's giving you trouble, or focusing on a part or an aspect, and flowing, which is totally different. That is no longer trying to focus on individual parts or issues
That
or
may be part of my difficulty is when I do practice, I mostly flow and I don't take the specific time to work and stop and work and stop on one aspect. I mostly try and incorporate it into a flow.
yeah. And quite frankly, that in the long run doesn't work very well,
Yeah.
because you don't actually do either one fully.
Right. Well, if we can do it as you're saying, kind of break it up into parts of the form, but focus on what you're saying, I can use that and follow that again.
Yeah,
So it'll be helpful for me to.
sure.
Oh, that would be good.
Yep. Let's do that.
Just gotta check. Bambi is right out back. I just gotta see if she needs to come in.
Okay. So as you stand before you move, you can actually begin to do your lengthening just simply as you stand, which gives you a chance to be aware of the lengthening throughout the entire body, not just the arms. So you can let yourself lengthen out and then just spring back to lengthen in. And lengthen out. And feel that come right back in. Lengthening in. So out and in.
Does it way cleaner than it did before?
And out.
That's right, that's right.
And begin Tai Chi.
Okay, yeah, so, well,
Coming in,
okay. So you
pause. Feel that lengthening in. And then continue. And lengthen out. Pause. Feel the lengthening. If you haven't lengthened, do it at this point. Let yourself extend out. Feel. Remember, it's a release.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And lengthen in and pause. And feel everything coming back in. And then lengthen out. And recognize that that's not a push out. That's a release out. Let everything lengthen out. You should feel energy flow out. Then lengthen in. And in even more. Feel that condense. Pause.
Yeah, we moved to
And then lengthen out.
our house, we didn't have AC in there for a long time. And the wife gets a little irritated with heating it. Kids get a little irritated, and next thing you know, putting AC units.
Then lengthen in. Pause.
Oh, didn't they say? So I think they also said, please don't point to my mom. Yeah.
Lengthen out.
That was supposed to be a very severe winter, a lot of sun. Now, if all that rain we had,
And continue out into your step.
it was all rain.
And into Pung. Pause. Lengthen out.
I like the winter. I love the summer. So if my summers were 3 months longer, I'd be happy. Well, so
Lengthen
my summer
in.
So
Pause.
how long I was down in the pool for swimming, so.
Feel everything coming in through the whole body.
And in recent years, I've fished right
Lengthen out.
rather than, I gotta pick my day sometimes. Here's 2 days the winter's gonna be ridiculous.
Feel that release.
Yeah.
Everything getting a little longer.
How long ago was that?
Lengthen in
Yeah.
and further in.
Bluff Point, and we actually did one in Orange Point. So ground Orange Point and Monster Cove. They both had.
And then lengthen out.
So we did a deer study in the community. And basically
Pause there.
the
Feel that release.
they were gonna have a deer session. So I kind of ran the deer session. Yeah. So my other job, I work for the state. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Lengthen in.
yeah,
lengthen out, pause,
Kind of line up the hole, the previous hole.
lengthen in, pause, step and lengthen out, pause,
Oh yeah, all my power, all these things are now battery powered. And it's great. I don't have to worry about extension cords. I got multiple batteries, so I can recharge them every week. So yeah, these things are great.
and continue, lengthen in, pause, feel it coming in, then lengthen out, then lengthen in, and pause, lengthen out, pause,
Yeah, so my peach trees are just starting to end the flowering period. My pears are just starting.
lengthen
My
in,
apples probably will be starting when pears are almost done. So there's going to be flowers out there.
pause,
Then along my
feel
driveway,
everything coming in,
I got an 800-foot long driveway. I've got flowering crabapple cedar, flowering crabapple cedar.
lengthen
So there's always
out,
something along the driveway. Then there's always flowers in the spring and birds
pause,
the crabapples and stuff. Yeah, I talked to my wife today about downsizing. She said, "You can't leave this house." I said, "What do you mean you can't leave the other house?" You can't. I mean, she said,
then
"Yeah,
lengthen
out."
out,
You know? So it
out,
sounds like there's a guy there.
out, pause,
There's like is that over there? Look at that. Little fellow in between there.
and lengthen in,
Okay,
and
okay.
more in, pause,
Okay, so it's
lengthen out, pause,
yeah, so I'm
release. Try to let those lengthen outs not be just physical movements. Okay, so relax for a minute. Need something?
Screw.
What?
He lost a screw and I need to get
Oh,
one.
yes. So what did you discover in that?
Um, I discovered that couple things. One is that I was not, when I was lengthening out, I was not, generally speaking, I was not releasing. I was
Yeah.
trying to focus on the
Push.
muscles and actually push, use the muscles to lengthen to a pretty large degree
Yep.
rather than releasing. So that was a big one because I was doing that pretty much everywhere. The other thing is during releasing and all that, instead of releasing and I was extending too far in some of the postures as well during the lengthening.
Yeah.
It's, I think subconsciously needing to see it physically lengthening more
Yeah.
so than
Yep.
those are the main things I
Right
discovered.
now, I'll tell you what sort of screws in there.
Yeah, because um,
Yeah.
when you're focusing on the lengthening, um, there's just that release, whatever it may be, and
Yeah,
it's not
right.
shove.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's a very different feeling, and um, what's interesting is the sense of power that eventually comes through that.
right.
You know, when I don't know whether I mentioned this or not, but at the last Master Joe birthday festival, which was not very satisfactory festival, um,
Right.
um, I did the flow of the first third actually of the long form and of the woo style,
Mhm.
and um, I think 6 people came up to me separately over the next few minutes and said how much they could feel the power coming from my movements.
Oh,
Um, and I was not pushing, I was lengthening.
right,
I was releasing out.
right.
Um, so that um, that was kind of interesting. I I'm not I'm not blowing my own horn here. I'm just trying to illustrate.
No, I know. It's what it is, what our goal is.
Yeah.
And no, I understand, and I'm from this exercise, which I want us to continue. I That was the first thing I realized when you said release, don't extend. I was like,
Yep.
whoa, wait a second. I haven't been doing that very well.
Yeah.
And once I started doing it, and I'm glad you repeated it like 5 times because I kept falling into that trap. With different postures, I found out I wasn't just releasing. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you repeated it several times. But as I started to do it better, as we were doing that exercise, I know what you mean. I
Yeah.
feel the difference, and
Good.
it is it's more concentrated and stronger, and I'm not extending myself and also doing it improperly. It
Yeah.
was
And it will result in beginning to reduce the size of your movements.
right. That's what I was trying to say. In condensing the
Yep.
movements, I'm keeping the energy even more condensed as well and feeling it better. So I know what you're saying, and that's a big difference that I need to work on now that I realize it.
Yeah. Because yeah, it's it's a little surprising at first,
Yeah. Uh,
but yeah, it's a good feeling.
I mean, especially with this form where, we've known from day one it's a much smaller movement form. You know,
Yeah, and it can be um, it can have different sizes in different days, but
hmm,
it's really interesting that as it begins to get smaller and smaller. Somehow it seems to get more powerful,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, which is sort of counterintuitive.
Mm.
So, but do you see what I mean about not trying to do the whole form?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I do.
because I think if you break it down into sections and just work on a section till that feels good, and then um, do the next one, whatever it might be. And it doesn't really matter how long it is,
Yeah.
um, other than not too long. Too long. That's,
Right.
I
Right.
think, the thing to be aware of. Because
Right.
you, at least what I found, and part of it I suppose is my age, um, if I tried to do that for too long a period, it began to be stressful and I wasn't able to really keep my focus on what I was doing.
Right.
So that obviously isn't helpful when you get to that point. So
Yeah. I agree with that as well.
yeah, yeah.
I find that as well.
And clearly you have enough stress in your life, you don't need to increase it.
No, that's the goal of my Tai Chi and Qigong practice is to escape it.
Yeah, right. Well, when you get this whole house thing straightened out, that probably will be a big help.
Yeah, well, once it's done and sold and we're moved out and into the new place and we can begin a quote unquote normal routine again, it will be a major difference.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
I
a few
understand.
months away, unfortunately. But
I'm sorry.
that's still probably a few months away.
Yeah.
I don't even have an offer yet on the house. I've been getting a fair amount of showings, but no offers yet. So
Uh huh. Well,
it'll happen, but day by
yeah.
day, day
It's
by day.
it's not the best market right now. I don't know about down there, but it's pretty poor up here.
Market down here is generally good, but interest rates just, I mean, the day after I put my house on the market, which was a day after or before, I put it on the market on April 4th. Right there, interest rates went up from 6 point something to seven, a little over seven. And
Ah,
that barrier between the six and the seven scares a lot of people in the market. I read
yeah,
a lot about that, and also my realtor told me that, and just I saw it happen.
yep,
So, but people are slowly adjusting to it and coming back. I am getting more showings as time is going forward.
yep,
So, but I don't think it'll be on the market that long. I think we will sell it soon because it's a very fairly priced, really good house. So we'll see. It's just getting there, just getting there to a place where all the excess difficulties pass. So,
yeah. Just gotta find that right person.
yep, exactly. All
So,
right, that's good.
is that enough for you today?
Oh yeah, very much. And there's two really good spots on this video that I will be able to go back to. And
Good. Well, I really appreciate you as a student, Jeff. You're a good student, even though I know you're struggling for time and all. You you care, and I know that when you can practice, you do good practice. So,
thank you. I try my best, just like Master Joe says, try your best.
yep.
I can't say that I do a little every day, but I do try my best.
Well, that's good.
Thank you, and I certainly appreciate you as a teacher and a friend all these years too.
Well, it goes both ways. That's how it works.
It's interesting how the universe, at a time when I really needed it way back when, led me to your first class that I took, and here we
Yeah.
are, 5 years later.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you again, David. You have a great week.
You too, Jeff.
We'll see you next week, hopefully.
Okay. Take care, buddy.
Bye bye.